Hey, welcome everybody back to Tutum Talk with Cara Nance, and I am downright elated to share my amazing guest with all of you in the world, Emily Blessington, amazing host of Tune Into Love podcast, and oh so much more. Emily, welcome to Tutum Talk.
Well, it's
How
so
are
nice
you?
to be here. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Cara. How are you doing?
I am so much better even now. Like I was already doing real well, and I get to talk with my friend Emily. Yes, nothing
I
but
feel the same.
oh, received. All right, my friends. So let's share. I'll share Emily's bio, and then we will get right into it. Jump right in. All right. So Emily Blessington is a certified calling in the one coach who helps women close the gap between the extraordinary love they desire and the patterns they keep experiencing. She supports women to transform relationship patterns, deepen their relationship with themselves, and create the kind of love they truly desire. Oh, Emily. If we could all just have you in our pocket, seriously, let's just chat. And friends, let's just fast forward to the share at the end. You can have Emily in your pocket in a way, right? You are available for helping folks out. Should that resonate? I'd imagine it resonates with many folks. So thank you so much for being here. From your beautiful introduction through your bio, is there anything else that you would like to expand on as we start this conversation?
Hmm. I have been really anchoring into the idea of creating a secure foundation inside of yourself in order to create extraordinary love. That's
Mm,
the step one, really, because
mhm.
extraordinary love requires extraordinary skills and capacities.
Yeah.
And that starts with our relationship with ourselves.
And for folks to have a bit of context, friends, you might hear Emily's accent is a little different from mine. Where are you joining us from, Emily? Please share.
So I live in England. I live in Bristol, which is in the southwest. It's a great spot. I'm
Yeah.
originally from Australia, so my accent's a little bit mixed. Yeah, good to be joining you from very rainy Bristol.
Okay.
Just an ocean away. That's about it.
Just a skip over the water, no problem. Yeah, just it's on the other side of the pond. Oh, I
Exactly.
love it. All right, my friend. So as I was thinking about our conversation, and so Tutum leadership coaching, Tutum, right? Tutum means safe in Latin because I was afforded the insight from loved ones that I create safe spaces to have really tough conversations. And I loved how that really informs how I have learned from my mentors about leadership, because the folks who have really influenced me, their love for me and the love that they brought to the organization to really carry out the vision as best as they could was palpable. And at the time, I don't know if I would have called it love, and upon reflection and building my business, and as I was crafting mission and values and vision, it's like it really does come down to love. So I was quite tickled when I wrote out Tutum Leadership Coaching and saw the TLC. It's like, exactly, right? So the values for Tutum are love of self, love your people, and love what you do. So for me, this is such a natural, and I'm offering all this context, especially for listeners who are like, you
Yeah.
brought a love coach into leadership? Like, I sure did. I sure did. Because if we don't love ourselves, right, we can't give what we don't have. And
Too
so
right.
if you're not loving you, then there's going to be a gap in your ability to truly pour love into your folks and into what you do. So,
Mm.
um, I do have a question for you. And from all of what I just said, do you have any thoughts that you want to share? I can see you like perking up in your seat a little bit. It's like, yes, Emily's ready. All right. Yep.
It correlates what you were saying about, love yourself, love
Mhm.
others, and love what you do. Because in the work that I do, it really is about your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, and your relationship to life. And
Mm.
love is the currency in all of those relationships, isn't it? And it's love is the expression of your soul. So whatever you do, if you're leading with your heart, leading with love, it's so good for business to start to, when you meet someone who is giving from a place of abundance and is of service, you can spot that person a mile away. It could be the person who's working in the supermarket, packing groceries, or it could be someone who you come across in your larger family. There's someone who's just magnetic because they're so anchored in love as sort of their framework. And I think we all would love to think that we're all able to access that. But for me personally, the coaching journey that I've been on, and I've had to learn some skills about love, because love doesn't always come naturally to all of us. Of course, some aspects of it do, and we assume that it should, but sometimes the trauma we've experienced or the stories we hold get in the way of us being able to not just express love, but to receive the love back as well.
Yes. My goodness. So what just came in, like that divine download, is that flow, right? Almost like an infinity cycle, right? Like if you're not giving, or there's such a narrative or practice, or maybe both and unconsciousness, the time around like, oh, I just want to give. But no. I don't need whatever it is, fill in the blank. And the other person or people on the other side is like, no, like I really want to gift this to you. And I don't think many of us, until we get into conversations and into that deeper reflection for self and raising of consciousness, do we realize that actually we were blocking flow. It's like a dam on a river, right? And right. So what are your thoughts on that one? Like how important, and then how to do it, like taking the like, yeah, that's nice. But what's the actual, for listeners who are like, oh my goodness, I think that's me. I give. And, I feel depleted. Like, yeah, like when was the last time you said, actually, that would be really helpful? Yes. And as simple as somebody buying you a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I've got so much to say about this.
Beautiful.
So it depends what center inside of you, what consciousness you're giving from. So if you're centered in your expansive adult self and you're giving from a place of abundance, like I said, you could call that clean giving. But if it's a pseudo safety strategy, which it can be when you're sort of centered in perhaps a story like, I'm not enough. If you have a belief that you're not enough, then that will affect that's a consciousness that you're centered in. And inside of that consciousness, you're likely to overgive, you're likely to over-explain, you're likely to overfunction as like a pseudo safety strategy to keep yourself safe. It's also the power position in any relationship. It's a more...
Oh, say more. Yes, Emily. And I'm over here for friends. I'm snapping over here on video, and maybe a little context would be helpful, is that it's similar to jazz, listening to jazz. So instead of clapping, it snaps like, yes, cheers. So if anybody's confused by what Karen's doing over here, it's like, yes, Emily, yes. Okay, keep going. A little context.
So yeah, like just asking you, just sort of really being honest with yourself about that. It can be quite revealing. So yeah, and because receiving is the more vulnerable position. So a big part of what I do with my clients is we explore that availability to receive, because in order to, you if you want extraordinary love, you have to be available for it. And
so not just give it, right? Like, I have so much to give. Yeah. And are you open to receiving it?
I mean, think about on a date. I think if you go on a date, the best way to show up in that first date and the first few dates with someone is to give them the opportunity to demonstrate how they might care for you in the future. So rather than you coming forward, which, I'm talking from personal experience in the past, like always sort of filling in the gaps and making sure like you taking the action, it's like allowing and receiving what they might be able to do. And if they don't demonstrate that kind of coming towards you and consistency or whatever it is that you decide that you need from someone, then the answer is revealed very quickly in those first few dates. So it is an opportunity. I know I've just jumped to dating, but it's an opportunity to be
Beautiful. Yes. Yeah.
to be a little bit like princessy, like to just be in yourself and allow to receive, because you're assessing that person's ability to love you and care for you. And are they going to make the next, are they going to make the next arrangement? What's going to happen? If that's what you're interested in receiving in the future, then they can start demonstrating it now.
Yeah. And I know you described it as princessy, and honestly, what comes in is queen. As we, have connected through our coach, Gina DeVee, one of our amazing coaches, Gina DeVee, who teaches queens take responsibility. And actually what I'm hearing you say is taking responsibility that you will keep your side like clean energy.
Yes.
And that the approach is truly an invitation to meet me, to meet me. Like,
Yes.
I'm here, I'm available, and I will stay responsible for what is mine.
Yes.
Princessy, if we want to keep going that way, I take it as more doing exactly what we're talking about.
Queen
Is a
is,
little. What was that?
you're so right. Queen is the word. Being in our
Right?
queen is more correct.
Yeah, yeah. No, I heard where you were coming from on the print, because in the master narrative, like the common conversation, that type of behavior of truly taking care of yourself is labeled, and if I may, Cara Nance over here, labeled incorrectly as princessy behavior or high and mighty behavior, or like you just want to get your way. It's like, eh, check that narrative. And if that's a story going on in your head, my hunch is all the more opportunity to work with Emily, like almost all the more importance, not only opportunity because Emily's available, importance for you to lean into the possibility and then action of reaching out to Emily to work together. Because if you've got that story in your head that type of behavior is asking too much or being too much, ooh, you learn that it's not your fault that you've got that story. You
No.
learned it from many places, and it's an opportunity to heal.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, and as well as there are some parts of us, and those stories may never necessarily heal, but what we can do is we can learn to source our lives and create our lives outside of those stories.
Okay.
Parent those parts of us, but just create what we want outside of it, from what my teacher Catherine called our inner adult. So really connecting with the part of us. I love talking about this because I think we should talk about it more. When we talk a lot about our inner child and healing our inner child, but the part of us that does that is the part of us that is capable and confident and is good with responsibility. The part of us that can access a broader perspective. The part of us hold complexity. And in love, I think that particular that adult self, we can become disappointed so quickly in love. So that adult part of us is really important to be able to access in those moments.
Yes, yes. And I'm jamming right now. I know you and I have spoken a little bit about this, and in this moment, I'm making the direct connection. I'm like, oh, that's so cool that I'm a big fan, and I have experienced great amount of benefit navigating waters in relationship through the lens of internal family systems therapy, which was brought into the world by Dr. Schwartz. And between him and just really jamming with what Gabrielle Bernstein brings to the table in the conversation around internal family systems, What Dr. Schwartz has coined is self-leadership, self with a capital S, and it
Mm.
very much connects with Catherine. Can you say a little bit more about your coach? And she said she called it what the adult
The inner adult.
inner adult. Yeah, like self-leadership and inner adult. I'm hearing a lot of similarities, if not downright like the same thing, and just calling it a little different, and that's beautiful. That we have agency.
Yes.
We can take back the wheel and be like, all right, kiddos, it's okay. Like we're like the kiddos are still with us,
Yes.
and the
Yeah,
adults driving the car. Yeah.
absolutely. They're buckled up safely in the back.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So Catherine Woodward Thomas passed away recently. I think it
Yeah.
was perhaps about a month ago now. It was very
Mhm.
sad. Um, she was a brilliant teacher, uh, like master teacher, coach.
Mhm.
Um, her contribution is,
Mhm.
I think, still yet to be fully acknowledged.
Right.
She's just
Yeah.
written her. I actually have the copy because I wanted to share it. This
Yeah.
book is her latest book.
Oh, what's true about you? For friends who are driving, what's true about you? Catherine Woodward Thomas.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean I mean, I wouldn't want to say, but I think it's
yeah.
potentially her magnum opus because it's the culmination of her life's work and the work of her community because it's she's not alone. She's been working with a really devoted community and this
Yeah.
transformational process that she sort of came across in the book Calling in the One, which is published over 25 years ago, or 20 years ago. This then became the basis for this new book. So they realized that this process, the 7-step process, was really catalyzing deep transformational identity shifts in
Mhm.
clients that weren't just for love, but you can apply them to any area of your life because it's the same work. So
Right.
just wanted to mention that. And
Amazing. Yeah, for listeners who are new to her work, would you have a recommendation of which text to read first?
mm, definitely. So if you are single and you're looking for love, then Calling in the One is the go-to book for that. It's just an absolute classic. It changed my life. Um, it's just a brilliant book that I'm a trained certified Calling in the One coach. And it's,
So that book inspired you to go get trained in the work with Catherine,
yeah, it
right?
did.
Catherine is your teacher, direct from the
Yeah.
source. So, okay, beautiful,
Yes.
amazing,
I
right?
trained with Catherine personally. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about that. And then I'll come back to her books if you like.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was lockdown and I remember just feeling like I was really asking this very shame-based question, which is what is wrong with me? Why does love not work for me? And it
Yeah.
works for everyone else, but it doesn't work for me.
Right. And
And I
such a
had,
universal question, right? Like, let's just have a quick moment for listeners who's like, oh my gosh, how is Emily in my head? Yes. Okay, go on. Yes.
and I picked up Calling in the One and I read it. I started reading and I just felt seen. I felt like this person. I'd never located myself in a book so quickly and so comprehensively as I did in Calling in the One. And I just was gripped and I looked online and there was a mini course, a 3-day intensive that Catherine was actually going to run on Zoom. And I signed up and the rest is history. It changed everything for me because that very painful question, what's wrong with me? From reading it, I was able to access a more beautiful question, which is how am I the source of what keeps repeating in my life? And if I am the source of it, that means I have the power to change it. So lifting myself up out of this, out of any kind of victimization into possibility. And it happened like that. As soon as I could see that, for me, it was so quick. Not necessarily lifting myself out of victimization 24/7, but just recognizing it and saying, now I can actually do something to change what happens for me in my future.
Thank you so much for your vulnerability and bravery and sharing, first and foremost. I know listeners, like, you probably have a handkerchief or a tissue with you by now where you are like, yep, if it's hitting you, that's beautiful. That's the point. And Emily, as you were just sharing that, what came in was Dr. Wayne Dyer. I can't remember. Are you familiar with? Okay. So listeners out there, if you're not familiar yet with Dr. Wayne Dyer, that's okay. And I encourage you to go tune into some of his work as well, or all of his work. Digress. His quote, pretty well-known quote, and I might botch it, so apologies for the fact checkers out there, that he said, when you change the way you're looking at something, at a thing, the thing that you're looking at changes, right?
Yes.
So I love how your experience, like, exactly, same thing, you just shifted your perspective and applied your agency and like, what
Yes.
what of this is mine, which is
Yeah.
all of it because it's me, right? And I have choice and agency. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with taking responsibility in this moment, especially when you're looking at a heartbreak where the other person might have not behaved well. So
Right.
what we suggest to do is not to sort of you don't need to take ownership of the whole thing, but you might just ask, what is my 3%? If the other person behaved atrociously in your estimation at that time, what's my little slice?
Mm.
How did I give my power away to that person? You know,
Mhm.
um, when did I ignore my own intuition in that relationship? When did I
Yeah.
turn away from my own feelings and needs in that relationship? It's just
Mhm.
some of the examples of how, when you actually start to look and with a real sense of openness and curiosity and self-compassion, because
Mhm.
you know that's absolutely essential for this kind of inquiry.
Right.
And it's certainly not shaming ourselves or blaming ourselves, but just looking really gently. And then, like you said, we then take the agency that becomes available through that inquiry, and and that's where we can start to move things in a totally different direction. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, like, just a little degree. I'm having like a plane flight metaphor that just a slight degree up
Yeah.
in the air completely takes you from landing into Chicago to, like, Los Angeles, is just a minor little tweak. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Absolutely.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's really beautiful. And then from there, what becomes possible completely changes. And yeah,
Mhm.
we talk about being in possibility consciousness, which is
Yeah.
just where everything opens out, like literally the limitations that you used to see start to just
Mm.
come away, and then you get to be
Mhm.
creative.
Love every time I'm in conversation with you, full stop, and what's coming in is like, golly, I just learned so much from you in every conversation I'm
Aw.
in with you. And what's coming in right now is, I love that you just taught me. And of course, all listeners out there, if this was new to you as it is for me, the moment that you're describing of like, gosh, how am I here? Oftentimes it's like, how did I get here again?
Yeah.
Like, again? And those are the moments when I share with folks. I've heard it from Oprah, Dr. Wayne Dyer, like a couple of folks who I, thought leaders, if you will, I really tune into, that in those moments they teach. Ask, what is this here to teach me? Like that internal question, what is this here to teach me? And what I love about your 3% approach is that what is this here to teach me is so broad, so
Mm.
vast. And I'm having some humility right now in realizing, like, oh, maybe when I've shared that approach with other folks, maybe that, even though they didn't say it, may have accidentally shut them down. Like, that wasn't my intention, but maybe they felt a little shut down because it's such a large question,
Okay.
as not compared to, but and I love that what you just offered as a potential approach is, okay, rather than like the whole experience,
Yeah.
let's just zoom in a little bit and take a sliver, just 3%. Like, here's this whole experience. Let's just zero in a little bit on, okay, just 3%.
Mhm.
And I love your couple of examples of, like, if nothing else, What did your intuition say? Because many of us are taught out of what we naturally have, and that is intuition, that
Yeah.
internal guidance, that internal voice, that like funny feeling. And
Mhm.
it's a split second. It's like a whisper. And
Yes.
so maybe in terms of like, what is this here to teach me? Like, oh, not a competition. I was right. It's not that. It's like, oh, I was right. I
Mhm.
knew it, and I questioned myself. Okay,
Yeah.
which, fingers crossed, is resulting in what you said, Emily, and that is, all right, now my self-compassion and my self-grace rises a little bit within me because like, okay, that happened. And now I'm better understanding what what has been true for me this whole time, this whole journey in this life. That I'm like, oh, I get the opportunity to trust myself quite a bit more because I actually did know what was best for me. Um,
Yes, yes,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And you can make an amends to yourself, an agreement with yourself that you'll never do that again. And
Right.
that's where your agency really starts to shape your future. The next time you
Mhm.
get to a relationship and you have a little inkling of something not being quite right,
Right.
you won't ignore it so readily because you have
Mhm.
located, you've named it and you've made a kind of a commitment to yourself not to do that again. And I think that's very
Mhm.
powerful. We can never ask the other person to change. We can't control what they did and didn't do, but we can change these little moments.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, your what I love about your broader question, which is what
Mm.
is this teaching us?
Yeah.
I see that as just a really powerful orientation to life, which is
Mm.
making empowered meaning out of any obstacle is it's such a
Mm.
superpower. I had a
Yeah.
friend of mine on the phone she's got a long-term illness and she's in pain quite a lot.
Mm.
And listening to her speak about how she manages the pain, how she perceives the pain, how she's managed to disidentify from the pain and the other qualities it gives her in her life. Like
Mhm.
just I was bowled away by the way that she orients herself to her situation. This
Yeah.
obstacle, this huge thing in her life has become as gifts inside it that she's managed to harvest. So this is a big part of the coaching as well. And, I think it's a big
Yeah.
part of your coaching. How can we orient ourselves to this obstacle so that it's a breakthrough rather than a breakdown?
Yes. Yeah. And just gonna name I keep your friend in my prayers. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And yeah,
She's a queen, another queen.
we're sending you all the love there, fellow
Mm.
queen out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so listeners out there, if you're like, okay, yeah, love, 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 relationships. Like if you're doing like, Cara, wait, I'm here for leadership. Like this is part of leadership, and okay, let's like give you something to chew on, a few more tangibles. With
Yes.
what we were just talking about, trusting your intuition, trusting that of course, bring the data into it, right? I've recently got a bit more kickback on that when I share in community. Like, yeah, trust your intuition. You actually know what's best for you. And the retort of like, and you still got to look at the data. Like, well, of course.
Yeah.
And both things can be true at the same time, right? Honor, honor all of the information and make your decisions from there.
Yeah.
I, of course, support that approach.
Hmm.
And so in that spirit, yes, Emily and I are talking about romantic relationships, and I very easily see this as when you're in the hiring process,
Hmm.
when you're in the mentorship coaching process, right? Like it informs relationships, not just romantic relationships,
All of it.
relationships
Oh,
in
totally.
your life.
Hmm.
So I wanted to be sure to like make that very clear, connect, like bridge that gap for
Hmm.
folks who might be like tuning out a little bit. Like, no, 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 no. This
Yeah.
informs everything. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I imagine leadership requires really high level relationship skills. And one
Hmm.
of the things that when we're one of the things I do with clients is really we're looking at our own consciousness. Where are we centered? And I've mentioned this before.
Right.
And when I think under pressure, you can drop into one of those false centers, like
Mm,
it might be I am alone, for example.
mm,
And inside of that story, I am alone, you might, another belief that might go along with that one is other people tend to leave me. I'm always left to on my own, and I can never get my needs met. I'm alone.
mm-hmm.
And inside of that sort of snow globe of beliefs, you might isolate yourself. You might reject others before they get a chance to reject you. You might strike. Um,
Yeah.
and that tendency to isolate might be something that is quite common, perhaps in sort of some leadership roles.
Mm,
You can be really high level and leader of a major organization and still have some of these sort of younger parts of you running the show at times. So yeah, it's relevant for all of that. And mm,
very much, very much. Yes, it's really interesting to see the 3 or 4-year-old temper tantrum in a 55 grown human being,
yeah,
55-year-old grown human being. Like, so that's again, internal family systems language and so is a burdened part, like a younger child part that hasn't been loved on and cared for. So for
yes,
whatever reason, the 3 or 4-year-old is now running the show. They are driving the bus and it's presenting itself as like this very unstable outburst, temper
hmm,
tantrum in a grown adult body. And I use the metaphor of a relationship piggy bank, like an actual bank where we put in deposits and we take out withdrawals.
hmm,
And in those moments, leadership, people leader, whoever is carrying out that temper tantrum, and I know I'm saying it very crass or very, like flippantly, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like when that adult has just l- uh, lost control of their emotions,
yeah,
that is a major withdrawal from that relationship piggy bank.
yeah,
Massive withdrawal, right?
yeah,
And so if that leader or people leader has not put in tons of deposits, like if you're not, again, economics 101,
mm,
when we're in the positive, we're in the black. When we are in the negative, it's in the red. If you haven't put in tons of deposits and richly in the black in that relationship,
yes,
you are going to be in the red and you can feel it
yeah,
when you're in the red. It's palpable.
yes,
So I very much connect with all the amazing work that you do, Emily, on how to support folks in
mm,
having skills, like having like you said, the currency. Hey, there we go. Like I just put that together. And listeners are like, yeah, Cara, catch up. Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming. Exactly. Like this currency supports you in actually figuring out what tangibly would be a deposit for this relationship and
yeah,
what would be a deposit for this relationship. And most importantly, your relationship with yourself. Are you in the red for you?
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
would even say, in terms of all of what you've just shared, if someone is triggered, for want of a
Hmm.
better word, in
Right.
that moment, in
Yeah.
reactivity,
Like, yeah, right. Heightened state. Yeah. Reactivity state.
really
Yeah. I love that.
reactive, and if you catch yourself in that moment and your relationship with yourself, because none of us are going to be beyond unless you're a real master being triggered. Most of us are going to be triggered at some point. And it's really about what we do with that moment, inside that moment, and what we
Mm-hmm.
do or do not do, because we're not really if we're not centered in our sort of true self, the decisions that we make are going to be sort of less reliable. So when you have a really solid foundation with yourself, it becomes the blueprint for what you do in that moment. So if you are feeling yourself sort of starting to be on the verge of having those heightened emotions and feelings, if
Yeah.
you have a really good level of self-presence and self-knowledge, you will be able to take yourself out, go to the bathroom, do some practices that I run through with my clients to bring yourself back. And we call it shifting centers. So
I love it.
shifting from the younger part of you, parenting that part of you, loving that part of you, in the amount of times I've done that in the bathroom at my
Yeah.
workplace, or
Yeah.
out and about, because it happens, and then
Yeah.
when you get back into your resourced self, and until that moment, don't do anything, don't have a conversation, don't send the email, don't do it. Get
Mm-hmm.
back into that resourced part of you before you take
Yeah.
any action.
Yeah.
But all of that, the awareness, the consciousness comes from self-relationship. And if I'm really honest about my coaching and my passion, it's
Uh,
self-presence and self-relationship and self-trust as the absolute foundation for your
yeah.
entire life. It's the blueprint. If you see it like everything's just an out picturing of of this one relationship, it's the blueprint for all of your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is ever going to be better than that relationship with yourself. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if a child learnt that at school, I just think we'd be living in a different world. Learning how to
Yeah.
soothe yourself, learning how to um, self-soothing is so important, to have a high regard for yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
speak in loving ways to yourself, to be honest with yourself outside of shame. All of
Mm-hmm.
these are intrapersonal skills that I'm
Yeah.
passionate about as any kind of foundation for. And
Yeah.
in leadership, I would say they're even more important because you're responsible for a lot more in your life. So
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Yeah. The ripple effect is even more profound,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Far reaching. Yeah. I love everything that you just shared. And I had this buzzing of brain science, bringing in the brain science to parallel with everything that you just shared and your encouragement, especially the little sliver about, don't yet send that email. Don't yet, right? Like, because it's going to be reactionary rather than a response. Those
Yeah.
are two very different things.
Mm.
And that brain science, and stop me if you've heard this, and maybe some listeners haven't, so I'll share it all the way. But that moment when we are in that heightened emotional state, right? Triggered, whatever one wants to call it. It's actually the amygdala. I love using the hand as a diagram, if you will,
Mhm.
to to reinforce the teaching, right? The amygdala has in our brain, it has no language. It does not know language. It's only emotion, and it's the size of an almond. And this is where the phrase "your lid popped off." Have you heard that one yet? I don't know if they have that in
I
England.
like it.
Okay, yes. So this in the States, and maybe like I'm aging myself. I'm 48 and a half like next week. So it might be an old saying, but it's a goodie. So if we're not using it, I say let's bring it back because it really helps. Like your lid is popped off, and when your lid is popped off, this I learned from actually the elementary team. So I love that you bring that in, like learn how to
Mm.
self-soothe and all, because when I was working in public school at a central office level, so I was supporting all the high schools, like the secondary schools at the secondary level, I was able to see a training from our elementary team. And because we were all one department, we didn't get to see each other's professional developments, like their workshops many times, but this time I actually got to see one of the behavior trainings where
Mm.
adults were teaching fellow adults on how to work with students in
Mm.
terms of behavior and bringing in the brain science. I'm such a beautiful nerd in that moment, just soaking it all up. And clearly it stuck because I'm about to share what they were teaching. And that is the amygdala has no language. It's only emotion, size of
Mm.
an almond. And when you use your hand, you can just like bring your little almond, which so let's say the thumb is the amygdala, little almond size, and just bring it into towards your palm.
Mhm.
And then when you close the lid with all your four fingers, you close the lid. This is your frontal cortex.
Mhm.
And so like you're right, which is execution, that is language, that's thinking, that's decision making, like all of it. When the lid is closed, like happy little family, right? When your lid is popped off and you're at a heightened state,
Mm.
emotional, right? That moment that we've been describing, Emily, your
Yes.
amygdala is actually in charge. Your
Mm.
frontal cortex is like nowhere to be seen. It is off. Your lid is popped off. And here's the
Yes.
catch to your encouragement of do not write that email.
Mm.
Do like hold off. Practice the skills that you learn from Emily in coaching about get back to your center, your resource. What'd you call it? Resource center?
The part of you that's resourced. Absolutely. Your adult.
Right? Yeah. Your adult self, that is what is happening. Like as your lid is popped off, bringing in the brain science to like in real time, as Emily's teaching you how to come back to your resource adult self, what is happening in your brain is that in a healthy brain, and that's the part that got me the most. In the healthy brain, that process from lid is popped off, like you had the trigger, you're very upset, right? Livid, 20 minutes
Okay. Interesting.
for that lid to come back down with no other stimulus, right? 20 minutes. And that's in a healthy brain. So what the elementary team was reinforcing then, and also for me in a humbled moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I loved my time playing soccer. I was a goalkeeper. I played university. And the amount of concussions I've had over 10, like the irony, I don't remember how many concussions I've had, like brain injury. I was having that moment of like, oh my goodness, I feel so seen and also a little scared right now to think about at that time how unhealthy my brain is from all the trauma from the concussions. And then let's bring in for other listeners out there, possibly post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Right? Like all of these elements. So that 20 minutes for a healthy brain, like nothing has ever happened to you. 20 minutes.
Still 20 minutes. Yeah.
If there's anything else, let's just call it double 40 minutes, an hour. So all the reinforcement to honor what Emily is saying, like, it's not just a nice to have. Like these are important principles to align with because it doesn't mean, this again, like you've said, the shame narrative that we loop on sometimes. If you're not responding right away, that's actually even more sound leadership because you're honoring what is scientifically true. And that is you are not in a place emotionally and physically and physiologically to carry out the next best whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely, like you won't be best placed to make your wisest decision.
Correct. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what was I going to say about that? I think as well, there are those moments of being triggered. We can also be identified with one of these stories, these sort of stories about what happened to us, whether it's a low level sort of hum of I'm not enough. And it can just percolate your life and it can just be running under the surface. So we have these explosive moments, but it also can be an identity. So being able to sort of disidentify from that and say, that's not me, that's a story.
Space,
yeah. Every time we tell the story solidifies even more. It's being able to have that awareness to step back. And that comes with practice, and when I first started this, I had no problem with saying, especially in the area of love, I was very victimized and I had to practice shifting centers a lot. And spent a long time feeling quite highly victimized and like sort of, I'm not enough was really, really strong. So yeah, and it's so worth doing because when you access that the truth about who you really are, which is not only are you more than enough, you were put here and you're perfect just as you are. And just sort of bust out of any idea of comparison and anchor into the truth that you're utterly unique. We're all utterly unique and incomparable beings. And from that center, what a difference in energy that places to create your life from and to create a loving relationship from that. I'm utterly unique. There's no comparing and knowing that as the truth.
100%. What was coming in as you were sharing that was, of course, that narrative, I'm not enough. Very common, very universal. And my hunch is for folks out there, especially in people leader roles who you're feeling very tuned in to this this example that Emily and I are continuing to come back to about the leader who just loses their cool for a moment. They're in a really heightened state.
Yeah.
My wonder is my hunch, really my intuition, my hunch is that internal story, as soon as you like take a breath from it, take a break from it, that internal is more like, I'm such a monster.
Mm, mm,
Like, gosh, I did it again. I'm such a monster. I'm such a jerk. I'm so mean, but it's probably more like a monster, like that type of like rage coming through or that type of anger.
mm.
Nobody wants to do that. Nobody, like in their heart of hearts, you don't want to act that way.
Mm,
And so the next, progression that came in was what Emily and I have talked about in terms of implementing these practices. I received the download, divine download to share that it's never too late. I know that sounds like
mm.
just something people say, and it is true that it is never too late. This monster that you are saying is you, exactly what Emily just shared and we're reinforcing, is not you. It is just a part of you that you do have the opportunity to create a little bit of space from
Mm.
and just perspective. And I want to send so much love to that little monster part of you because it's doing its best to protect you in
Yeah.
that moment. Like that's what it learned to do. And giving it some love, like, hey, it got you this far. Like you're still standing, you're doing your thing. Like clearly it's doing its job really well. And
Yeah.
now with that awareness and that increased consciousness around, like, you poor little monster, what do you need? Like you want
Yeah.
a new name that's not monster? Like,
Yeah.
how about like whatever it is? For me, it's Bruiser. Like when Bruiser comes into the scene, it's like, whoa, Bruiser. And I've learned that Bruiser, she, they, like, I'm not quite sure of the gender, right? Like kind of changes in the moment. That Bruiser comes in hot, like on the scene
Yeah.
when someone I truly care about and love, I am perceiving and Bruiser is perceiving as to get hurt or there's injustice
Mm-hmm.
that Bruiser is tuning into or thinks is happening. Bruiser's like, not on my watch. I'm like, whoa, okay, I hear you 100%. So now it's quicker, right? But Bruiser and I just like befriended each other this time last year.
I
It was like
really.
like spring, summer 2025, and now we're at the time of this recording, June 2026, and so it's been beautiful. Like, oh, and then to go back in time, like, oh, that was you when that happened. And you're like, wow, Bruiser, you've been working hard. Like you really have done a great job of keeping us safe and
Yes.
getting us to, and doing your best to keep all of our loved ones safe.
Mm.
And you learned how to do that, right? Over the years and over the decades. Like, oh, thank you so much, Bruiser.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And I'm here now. So thank you for continuing to let me know how I can best support you to support me. And when I've done that, it's so interesting that Bruiser transforms from like really like a monster, like shelled back with like
Mhm.
gosh, like little like a dinosaur with all the
Is it?
little sharp things on the back. Yeah, like it has like cufflinks, like the studded cufflinks, so like like muscle. And after like really having some time with Bruiser, transforms into like the lead on a trail. Like it's so beautifully trippy internally. I can then see Bruiser's at the top, like at the head of a trail, and I'm in the back, and all the other little parts, all the other little kiddos, we're all just on like a nature trail together. And
Oh,
Bruiser almost is like John Muir, like has a little staff and little snacks, like ready. I'm like, so you're good? All right, and we're moving forward. Okay, beautiful. Woo, right? Like it's a thing. It's a thing. And so many colleagues and loved ones, I know they've experienced Bruiser. I got that direct feedback from my cousin. I was with him for a couple months, a couple years ago as he was navigating brain cancer, and like, thank God he's in remission and on
oh,
the
good.
other side of it. And having 2 months with my cousin and with brain cancer, like, behavior wise, sometimes behavior is similar to 2 years of age, then 14, then back to 44. Like it's a real fascinating, I don't want to distill it down to that, but like it's a really to be so beginner's mind. It is such a beautiful teacher of beginner's mind because you do not know the human that who you are experiencing in that moment. It changes that quickly. And from that time with my cousin, like, so thankful for that divine time when things weren't working out in all other facets of my life. I was like, am I supposed to go be with my cousin? And the download was like, yes, like, seriously? All right. And was there for it was amazing. And point with Bruiser, he offered up. He was like, "Oh yeah, Cara, I very much like growing up. Nobody messed with you. They knew not to mess with you." And I was like, That's not me. That is so not me." So it's been really interesting to hear. I think that was like the beginning of some Bruiser awareness of feeling such a such a gap, such a valley, like massive. That is not me at all. I'm a love bug. Like, I'm like, how am I remembered as such a
A brute.
security guard? Yeah, a brute. Yeah. I'm like, what? Digress. Yeah. So,
Oh, Cara, you named
yeah.
all that so beautifully. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you just encapsulated so much. I think your
Thanks.
listeners are going to really, really relate to that.
Yeah, and thank you for creating those safe space. I'm just having a moment now, like, and we're back to the podcast. Like, friends out there who are listening and possibly watching, this is what it's like, just a sliver, imagine, in a coaching session with Emily. Like, the doors unlock where, you just feel safe to like, yeah, so this is what's happening. This is what's going on. Oh my goodness, look at that, And all of a sudden, relationships with internally through your relationships, working with Emily.
No,
Um,
it's been so lovely to chat with
it's
you, Cara.
same,
Always
same,
a
same,
pleasure.
same. I do have, my goodness. So if you're open to, I would love to have you back because I did actually have like a couple of, I don't prep questions usually, but I was like, oh, I would love to like hear this from Emily and then like share it with the world. There are a few of them. So I will, unless you had something else that you wanted to share before I ask like one more
No, I
question.
mean, you could ask me now or we could meet again. It's
Oh,
up to you.
okay. Awesome. Well, let's meet again. Absolutely. And I'm going
Yes.
to ask you. Okay.
Go for it.
So, okay. So there's three of them.
Okay.
There's three.
I'm ready.
Okay. So John Maxwell
Mm.
teaches, and he's a leadership guy, has written like 85, 86 books, something like that. Decades long leadership, teacher in leadership. One of his most popular offerings to the world is the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. So listeners out there, if you've never heard of John C. Maxwell, that's all right. That is the recommendation that I would have, is go check that out. He teaches that leadership is influence. And the moment I heard that, I was like, exactly. So, and as we keep that train of thought, where I take that is we all have influence. So therefore, we all have leadership in us. That's just how we're going to channel it, right? And with that context, my question for you is, who has influenced you? Who are leaders in your life? And mortally with us or passed on from centuries ago? Yeah. Who's influenced you?
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So many wonderful metaphysical teachers,
Mm,
both living and no longer with us. One of my favorite teachers is Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote
okay.
The Game of Life and How to Play It, and Your Word is Your Bond. She's a relatively new. I see her as my friend and my mentor. Even though she was writing in the 1920s, she's
Mm,
helped me enormously making sure that my words are matching the reality I want to create because our words carry frequency.
mm,
And yeah, so she's one. There is a wonderful English teacher who lives down the road in Devon. He's called Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys and the author of the book The Gene Keys, which are like a synthesis of the I Ching and human design and DNA. It's just he is a wonderful teacher and leader and influence on me. He's probably, I call him my spiritual dad. He's the biggest influence in my life, I would say. Um, Catherine Woodward Thomas, without a doubt, is an extraordinary influence. Gina DeVee, also just, one of really has helped me see what's possible and how to do that the feminine way, which is a beautiful teaching. And then I have other influences like Ramdas and there's Radhanath Swami, who is, I think, the current leader of the Krishna movement. He's just such a powerful teacher, and I adore him. So far and wide. And then some really great musicians. I would say music is, in my blood, and people like Jimi Hendrix and all sorts of musicians. We won't get into that, but yeah, I think music has the power to transform us just as much as there's wisdom in it, just as much as there is in, the lived wisdom of these master authors and teachers. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I was this morning listening to a little bit of Mozart and Beethoven. I just like having the classical station on, and I thought of you like, oh, I'm about to get on a call with Emily. Music.
Yeah. So for your listeners, I'm a pianist, and Mozart probably is my favorite classical composer. Bach as well, but yeah, you like a bit of Mozart. Mozart's so balanced, it's so symmetrical and beautiful, and it follows the sort of the natural laws. You just feel like you're in harmony with the universe when you listen to Mozart.
Yeah. Ugh, beautiful. All right. Which question next? Okay. I'll go this flow here. So you were sharing between you and me, you were sharing what you would love during this podcast, and friends, hopefully, like, I can't imagine this hasn't happened for you yet. And if not, that's okay. You're on your own journey. And I know I will use I statements. I know it has happened for me. So you have met what the goal that you had stated, and that is that you're hoping for folks that you lift them into possibility if they were feeling disappointed in love. And the question came in, why is possibility important from your perspective?
The possibility consciousness allows you to see all of the opportunities present. If you're just going by your reticular activating system, I don't know much about the science, but I know that that is your picker. So it picks up. We have millions of pieces or thousands of pieces of information coming at us in any second. And I think our brain only takes in about 40.
Right.
So when you're in possibility consciousness, you are tuned in to the fact that every moment is pregnant with possibility. And when you have had challenges in love, it can be very easy because you're just looking at the evidence. You say, it doesn't work for me. Love is just, it just equals pain. In my desire for a relationship, quite often we shut it down. We say, it's not possible for me. Right. It just keeps going wrong over and over again. No matter what I do, I can't get it right. So there is just this being able to shift from that place, which is just, that sort of place of hopelessness, into the places actually we can see it a different way and say, when we see ourselves as the source of our experience, we are the creators. We have the power to create something new. And the reason we can do that is because the future is open to our influence. We influence our own future. And when we set a really bold intention that can become our North Star, like, I will be in a happy, healthy relationship by a certain time, that will catalyze you into taking the actions and growing the skills, the capacities, and developing the skills needed to get there. So that future focus is inside that possibility. They really go together. So I hope that's kind of answered your question.
Amazing. Yes, of course. And I through our conversation, you dabbled a little bit on the possibility. I remember you shared that earlier in our conversation today. I was like, let's still go back to it. So thank you for expanding a bit more on it.
Following the gumdrops in the forest, just being open to saying, like, anything can happen, like being open to new experiences, and any connection you make could lead to another connection, and just that openness will create
Mhm.
flow in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you brought in the RAS, right, reticular activating system, right? From my understanding, it's also what supports us, as scary as it can be, in autopilot. So as we're driving a path that we've driven so many times,
I didn't know that.
when we get to that destination, we're like, I don't even remember getting here. I just got here safely. Thank you. What? That's your RAS, because your RAS is like, yep, familiar, familiar. Like yep, right, because it's right. Just doing its thing. The other element that actually just came in brain science wise, so I'm loving that we're like, yes, emotional, that I hear some folks call soft skill. And I
Mhm.
feel called to reinforce, like, no, this is actually really, really hard stuff. Like, these are not just soft, nice to haves practices and ways of being in the world. This is actually really important. And probably, again, from a business lens, for the US, like low, very low, the least amount for a new hire to onboard a new hire is 15,000 US dollars per
Wow.
hire. And so, right. And that's like, respectfully, bomb of the, like, baseline onboarding when you think about overhead, actual like materials, people power, all of it, training materials, fill in the blank, right? 15,000 per hire. And when you start to do the math on the turnover that you're experiencing, like, well, I just don't know why people keep leaving.
Yes.
This is where these principles that Emily and I are talking about really come into play. uh, that when you truly bring the love, this soft skill, it's actually a really hard skill that impacts your bottom line, your P&L, your profit and loss, your P&L, like all of these elements of business. There's a direct impact,
Yeah.
positive and negative.
Yes. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like that's a huge investment. So your relational skills as a leader, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the amount of money that's, being able to choose someone, like you're saying, like you want to be having, I mean, leadership is relationship, isn't it?
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yes. 100%. And then the other brain science piece that I wanted to bring in, I actually forgot for a second. Thank you for it. I was like, oh yeah, and that one. To your point, that as human beings, we have, I think it's between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts per day. And right, like this thing is on fire. This thing called the brain is on fire, en fuego. And 80%, on average, 80% of those 60, let's just go with the minimum. 80% on average of those 60,000 on average thoughts are negative.
Oh, wow.
So if for average humans. So again, what Emily's talking about in terms of practices and principles and the amount of practice it takes to be able to reach for it so much, rather than like break out the step ladder and go all the way up to the top of the shelf. Like, that's effort. It feels that way at first
Yeah.
because we were naturally wired, understandably, to save our lives from the saber-toothed tiger and all of those threats that we had.
Yeah.
It's in our DNA to seek out the negative so that we can stay safe.
Yeah.
So it makes sense if you find yourself in that space, in that mentality, right? And you don't have to stay there. It doesn't. That's my carry home message: is that it doesn't have to hurt. You have choice. We
Yeah.
were given free will, as well as human creatures. So.
Definitely. And I mean, if
Yeah.
there's ever a time to be able to transform your consciousness and elevate
Mhm.
it, the time is now. Just there's so much great information out there. The neuroscience backing it up. There's some wonderful teachers out there. And yeah, I like it, it's such an opportunity. Gosh, our relationship with ourselves and what we think and what we speak, this is never going to go anywhere until the day we die. This is a constant. So
Right.
if you're going to invest in that, I think it's a pretty good investment.
Yeah. Yeah. What just came in is you are with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so pivoting to, and the decrescendo of our conversation here, the Tune Into Love podcast, which I didn't even think about the music part of Tune. I'm so curious your decision for your podcast name. So you are the host of the Tune Into Love podcast with
I am.
Emily Blessington.
Yes.
What brought you to the decision to name your podcast that?
Well, I think the idea of tuning into the frequency of love as your baseline frequency it stems from one of the practices we do in Calling in the One. It's called visioning. And it's very common in manifestation spaces now. People talk about it all the time, but 20 years ago, I think it was quite, there were teachers 50 years before that. I guess it's been around a while.
Not as popular. It's more in the zeitgeist than the popular conversation now. Yes, for sure.
You got it. Yeah. So this idea of the fact that you can tune into the love you desire before it arrives. And this is one of the practices that I lead my clients through a visioning. So what it might feel like to be in your ideal relationship, what it might sound like, what it might smell like, what the experience, what's going on, what are the little moments between the two of you. Really tuning into that future possibility before you're there. And then from that, it's not just sort of a nice thing to do. What you're doing is you're getting information, you're getting feedback. Okay, so if I was in this future, who would I be? How would I need to grow in order to be that person in that future? What skills might I need to develop, or what might I need to let go of? It might be a resentment that you've been holding. It could be that you need to develop you might be required to develop the skill of, I don't know, setting better boundaries for yourself. Yeah. So it gives you all of this information and then catalyzes you because you're like, well, I want that. So I'm going to become the woman who can have that. And that gives you the path forward from the future. You can sort of start creating your life from the future backwards. So that's the idea of tuning into the frequency of the love you desire. Amazing. That's where the name came from. But obviously there's the connection with me being a musician as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the musician aspect until just now. I was like, oh, look at that. There's so many different ways to tune into. And I was like, rather than create a story in my head about like, let's just ask Emily and then share with the rest of the world. So that friends, go check out her podcast. It is, especially you're in that space of why does this keep happening? Right? Right. And if you are really in that space of why does this keep happening, Emily, I think you said that you've got an opportunity to work with you where folks can discover to see if it's a fit for you.
That's right. Yes. Right? At the moment, I'm offering a 45-minute love clarity call. It's by application for the precise reason of it's just a good idea to see if it's something that might benefit you. The link will be in the show notes for this podcast. Apply for a love clarity call. And it's just an opportunity to really figure out what's been going on, what's been holding you back, maybe looking at the patterns you might have experienced, and then looking at what you really desire and then figuring out the gap and what might need to change so that you can create that extraordinary love.
Awesome. Where else can folks find you? Like website, socials?
Yeah, my website is www.emilyblessington.com and my social will be in the show notes, but it's at @m_Blessington. So yeah, you can find me there.
Perfect. Awesome. Oh, Emily, thank you so much. Any other thoughts for this time around you'd like to share?
I'm just so grateful to you. I always feel like we could chat for hours and hours, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. And I, of course, am very much looking forward to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye. Bye for now.
Bye. Man, that conversation with Emily Blessington, my cup continues to runneth over. I'm so thankful that she is a true friend in my life, and also so thankful that we were able to pour value into each of you. Um, I I have a couple of notes here from Emily's and my conversation, and because I don't want to forget, I want to honor that she sent me actually an updated offer that she's got a Break the Pattern offer. It's a 7-day private coaching experience for women who are done repeating the same relationship pattern and ready to start creating something different. It combines a private coaching session with a daily Voxer support, and Voxer is Voxer. And she's offering it for just a small number of spaces. So if this sounds like something that feels like a really good fit for you, 7 days, that type of intentional daily support for 7 days, if that feels like a fit, be sure to reach out to Emily, and all this information is in the show notes as well. But it's a small number of spaces for £97 in exchange for honest feedback and a testimonial. So, and then I'll have that application link for you as well in the show notes. So if that feels like a fit for you, definitely reach out and fill out that form. If you're driving, be sure to not fill that out at this time. Wait till you get to a safe place to concentrate on that activity of filling out the form. What else? So I also, since recording with Emily, I signed up for one of her Calling in the One, love intention setting session. And I know you know this already because you just experienced a conversation between she and myself, and she's got a gift, my friends. She's really tuned in as we started the session, because my joke is that I've had 2 ex-fiancés and the third time's the charm, but like it's not a joke. Like I've learned a lot. I'm so thankful, and my exes and I, like we're still really good friends. I adore their partners. Like I'm in a very thankful space. I'm in such deep gratitude for where we all are now. And like, yeah, I am very much looking forward to meeting my future wife. And maybe I already have. I don't know. Um, so Emily, with her gift of the Calling in the One, and what she names as the love intention setting, like laying the groundwork for welcoming in your person. Um, I had a session with her, and she, to the point of my point of she has a gift, she was able to read very quickly at the beginning of the session that some of my parts, my internal you know, I've shared a couple times on the show. So if this is your first time having a chat here with yours truly, I'm a fan of therapy in general, and especially for me, what I found to be most beneficial, and it just makes the most sense to me. It's the best fit for me, is internal family systems therapy, that approach. And so this time last year, I'm recording late July 2026, so yeah, I was in the thick of it last year in 2025. I took myself through almost an entire year of therapy with a therapist who's trained in internal family systems, and did great work. That was April through December. Really, really beautiful work. And so I was a little, let's go with surprised. I'm not quite thrown, more, I was able to get back to curious pretty quick, which I was thankful for. But I was like, wow, this one again, this part again. And so the scene that came up as soon as Emily and I were starting to get into the work and like setting the scene, I was immediately taken back to a moment when I think I was 4 years old. I think a fresh 4-year-old, like kind of springtime. My birthday's December 15th. So I think it was like springtime of 4-year-old. And this scene has come up ever since I started working with a coach. So Rashana Price was my first coach. And Rashana, if you're listening, I know you know the scene very well. Like we did cord cutting with it. Like we did. My friends, I've been doing the work. Trust me, like when I encourage you to do the work, it's because like I'm right there with you. And it is, as my old, I can feel that this is a part saying it's fascinating. Like it's not so much fascinating. It's with my self-led, like my higher self, I just have so much love for this part that she keeps coming back into the scene. And she came onto the scene with Emily and me in the start of our conversation because uh, her belief, like that limiting belief that she still holds, that burden part, like poor sweet thing, she still believes because of what happened in that moment that we are irresponsible with money. We, and Emily was able to distill it down to that 4-year-old part, because I used words like irresponsible in our session, to her question of like, well, how does the part feel? Like what does she need? Like, what does she believe is true? And I was using words like irresponsible, and I was like, the 4-year-old is saying irresponsible. Like she checked me. I was like, good point. So going back in, and I'm like, what is the word? Like, oh, I'm bad. And other people are good. I'm bad. But so the scene itself, to bring you all into the moment, I was using my younger brother's baby diapers to change the baby diapers on my Cabbage Patch Kid doll. At least I think it was Cabbage. Maybe it wasn't Cabbage Patch. I think it was just a baby doll. And so I was doing right by, as I think about my Clifton Strengths themes, responsibility is 11 for me. And again, it's not about ranking order. It's like these are the innate ways of being, thinking, and feeling that the assessment is able to pinpoint. And so my responsibility theme was, as I think about this moment from a Clifton Strengths lens, like, yeah, I was completely operating from my responsibility theme. I also have high belief theme, like you take care of your loved ones. And my loved one for my 4-year-old self was my baby doll. Like that was my responsibility. And I knew that my mom would be, if I were caught using my younger brother's diapers, that would be wasteful. Like I'll get in trouble. Like I very much remember a 4-year-old, like I'll get in trouble if I get caught. So I put the baby diapers under my bed to like hide them. And my mom, so the scene is my mom comes into the room that I was in. I don't remember if it was just my room or me and my brothers, because at the time, to also paint the picture of this moment, we were Fairfax, Virginia. My dad was serving at the Pentagon. It might have been Fort Leavenworth. Either way, we were a military family, like in the thick of being a military family in the early 80s. And money was very, very tight. Like I know for every service member in their family, money is still quite, budgets abound, my friend, budgets abound. And it was very much, from my understanding, that was the truth of our family. Like every penny was counted. I very much remember coupons, like we cut out coupons, shopped at the exchange, at the commissary, like shopped on base, coupons, very, very calculated. Every penny was calculated. And so I knew that if I were to use my younger brother's diapers, like, that's gonna, that wasn't in the calculation that Cara would be using diapers that were meant for Devin on her baby doll. So hence why I hid them. And the scene is my mom is vacuuming, and she found, because she vacuumed under my bed, she found the diapers and was, later I learned the word livid. Like, she was hot. She was very upset, as I knew she would be. And I got in really big trouble. I was probably grounded. I very much remember like getting yelled at. Like, she lost her cool. And as an adult, kind of like, in that moment, understandably. And, and I love my parents to pieces. I really like brought them onto the pocket. Like, I love them to pieces. And I know that they, a la Teddy Roosevelt, and I believe this for every parent, they do the best that they can with what they have, with where they're at. Like, they did the best with what they were resourced with. And there are still moments where gosh, I go back to that scene often, like, just like a quick pause and a moment of like, oh, kid, look at you doing such a great job of caring for your baby doll, and then coming up with a creative solution. I'm like, so Devin's diapers aren't an option, right? What else could we use as an option for cleaning your baby doll? And so maybe introducing, I don't know, reusable diaper, right? The cloth diaper system. And then I would probably make a mess like cleaning the cloth diaper, but at least I want to be using those diapers. And so where all this comes back to the session with Emily is that is not at all, from what I was understanding from Emily on the back end of this experience, that wasn't the idea behind the love intention setting. And she was able to read that I wasn't going to be able to have that love intention setting with what she would in her practice as a Calling in the One coach. And she talked about it a bit on the podcast. So it was also really cool for me to like listen to our conversation all the way through, which is what I often do, to make note of what I want to say here on the back end. And I was like, she talked about the false love identity. And that is what was coming up with my 4-year-old self, was the false love identity that I'm bad. And golly, I'm going to go track that other one down. I was like, what was that fourth thing? I'm going to pull it up right now. And that life is hard. That's right. That life is hard. So that 4-year-old self learned, what and again, this is after, gosh, my buddy handed me, You Are the One You've Been Waiting For by Dr. Schwartz, very well-known text in the internal family systems learning library. So You Are the One You've Been Waiting For and No Bad Parts. So I read those in the spring of 2023 after my second ex-fiance and I, like, we really gave it the good old college try. Like, we did everything that we could, that we knew how to do to keep that relationship going over the little over 7 years that we were together. And it was just so like, it's not happening. So as a committed just us relationship. And so one of my buddies handed me You Are the One You've Been Waiting For, and I just soaked it up. And so that was my start, my gateway, if you will, into internal family systems. And so yeah, like moments with Emily, it's the phrase that comes in is, imagine my surprise that after all this work since 2023 and then working with a trained therapist 2 years after being introduced to internal family systems, and then having a whole year with my parts, which was great work. Like, yes, there's such a better, deeper understanding of self, like when I'm in self-leadership. And I actually bring in the Hawaiian word for family, ohana. Like, we have a whole ohana, like I get goosebumps just say it. We have a whole ohana experience going on over here. And so hence imagine my surprise when I get on a call with Emily, and there she is again. Like, wow, okay. She's still not fully resourced. Like, there's still learnings to be had for me. Like, she's here to teach me. And I get to be with her in ways that I didn't quite know she needed yet. And so Emily did such a profoundly brilliant, I was about to say job, but it's not a job. Like, she facilitated the moment so beautifully. And I was full waterworks, like that's not everything. And I'm familiar with these questions that she was guiding me through, like be with her, ask her what she needs. And when I really sat with it, it was that she needs a hug. Like, she needs to know that she's not irresponsible, that she's not, that she wasn't wasteful. So those things I knew, but like that she just needed a hug. And Emily's encouragement, which I have also had in working with my therapist in internal family systems, and Dr. Schwartz reinforces it in the books, of like, be with those parts, set out intentional time each day to just in internal family systems, they call it the U-turn. Like, you literally like go back into you and have a moment, especially with that, if there's a part that's fresh for you. And so, and on the show, I in the conversation with Emily, I talked about Bruiser. And so it's also the like, all right, Bruiser, like I feel you here, like I know you're here. I know whoever else, I'm with this little one right now. Like, I appreciate where you come from. I'm going to be with this little one. And by me, I mean self with a capital S, my self-leadership self. And so it's been really powerful since having that session with Emily, which was like just last week. The little one, the 4-year-old, like, yes, a hug. Like, I check in, give her a hug. And then like yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, she's like, and a piggyback ride. I'm like, sure, yeah, let's do it. Like, cool. I love giving piggyback rides. So it's just been so sweet. And this is my encouragement for you. I also love that what came through our conversation, Emily's and my conversation on the podcast, is this vital importance that each of us in our leadership roles, so whether it's a formal one with an organization or in our community, leaders in our household, and of utmost importance, leaders of ourselves. Again, self-leadership, which is why I love it. It comes back to internal family systems for me, like our leaders for ourselves, that in order to shine our lights as bright as they can, and that is a tip of my hat to Marianne Williamson's, her poem, Our Deepest Fear. Like, we're not afraid of failing, like we're afraid of succeeding. We're afraid of being as bright as we possibly divinely have been made to shine. And this work helps inform that truth. That now with my little part, I'm like, oh, I gotcha. And that's what Emily is. So from what I'm understanding with her, what came through with that 4-year-old is my false love identity, that I'm bad, that life is hard. And the life is hard came from, like, we don't have money we just don't have money. Like, we can't have everything because we just don't have the money for it. Which, yes, right, there's like learn how to earn the money and save, and of course. And for that 4-year-old self, she very much learned like life is hard. Um, yeah, and that she's bad, and that others are good. And when we were wrapping up our session, Emily was reinforcing like in the heat of the moment, this false love identity is going to rise to the surface. and she talked about that in our conversation, so I know it's fresh for you. And that when she said that in our session just last week, I immediately had like a Rolodex of memories of, and if I just lost you on Rolodex, it's like I was born in 1977. So a Rolodex is what held paper and you like flipped it and it had like all these contacts. Like that's before our phones that had contacts, we had Rolodexes and you would like pull the card from the Rolodex and hand the piece of paper to the person and say, call this person. That's a Rolodex. So like all these memories with long-term relationships. I'll put it that way. So definitely my two ex-fiancés. And then there were a couple others who I can think of moments when that was so true, that when things weren't going well, I instantly, like in our relationship, I instantly took the responsibility that I'm bad, that I did something wrong. It's on me to fix it. And that's not necessarily true. Like there's uh, my part of it, but I would take on all of it. And that's not fair to me. That's not fair to the other person. That's not fair to our relationship. And so, yeah, this is me encouraging you that even if you feel like you've done the work, if there's any part of today's conversation that resonated for you, I definitely encourage you to reach out to Emily. Especially that 1 week, like sample size, like appetizer. Genius, Emily. Genius. Yes. Yeah. Dive right into that one because my time with Emily, it was just one of those sessions, and so much came and continues to rise to the surface from my time with her. And it helps me, again, going all the way back to Clifton's strengths language. And real quick, like she and I will work on the true love identity. We have that coming down the way that Jill and I have a true love identity. So she doesn't just leave you in the lurch where you're like, all right, false love identity. Now what? Right. So she handles your experience with care. So we'll have a true love identity. And then with that, supporting, laying the foundation for me calling in my love. So like, I don't know if I've met you yet out there, future wife. Maybe I have no idea. So, and if I haven't, I'm really excited to meet you. So like, I'm like doing the work. We're doing the work. And I know for me, I believe everything in divine time. So no rush. And I'm really excited to meet you. And have life together with you. But going back to the Clifton strengths part of this, the responsibility theme, I also find it really powerful how, as I continue, of course, as a Gallup certified strengths coach and continue to work with folks in that work using that tool, the Clifton strengths tool, I'm also in conversations with folks who use phrases like the shadow side or the false love identity, or right, and that Gallup Strengths, like that language is the barrier label. So when you work with me, I create these custom reports for you. One of the pieces that is populated is the barrier label for each of your dominant themes, which is the idea is how the outside world might see you. But I'm also sitting with like, oh, yeah. And how when I am in a low vibe, hurt state, now I'm going to go back to my barrier labels and just stay curious with myself on how maybe I have embodied that as my truth, which isn't necessarily helpful, right? So continued curiosity, self-curiosity, it's not a browbeating experience by any means. I encourage you to stay in that space of curiosity of like, I wonder how this has come up before. Or like, oh, wow, Yeah. I'm seeing how this has come up before, and just having that moment of self-grace. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. As I've modeled here for you today, pretty vulnerable. And I knew that I was ready to share it with you, that 4-year-old part. Um, that my hope, which is always my hope, that our time together, of course, pours value into you. And also, if I can be a model for you or for your loved ones, whoever, you're like, oh, wow, I really think so-and-so needs to hear this, or it'd be great if they heard this, if they were open to hearing this, because wow, do I think they might, could they really benefit from it? That is my intention with being as candid and open and feeling somewhat vulnerable, and that's okay, with these shares, so that you also then know that you're not alone. Like, this thing called leadership, it, you do not serve anyone by going about it with this narrative that you have to do it alone. That you are not serving your folks, if that's where you're at, and it's also okay that that's where you're at. Uh, if that is how you are currently navigating your leadership journey, I highly recommend that you reach out to me. I am right there with you, just so that we can have a conversation on what it could look like, feel like, sound like, to have somebody in partnership with you in the work. We'll have you complete your Clifton Strengths assessment, and we'll talk through all the elements of it, and get you in partnership with someone who's really got your back. I've got you. And that will ripple effect out to your people. It'll be palpable. You won't even have to say a thing. You will show up in positively different ways. That is my guarantee. So just by getting your assessment results, research shows that your confidence goes up, because it names you're already talented at. It identifies your talents. And so it's this opportunity to lean into that self-grace and that self-compassion and self-love. You don't have to be everything. Like, it's not humanly possible. And then you get to move on from there, from that space. So, all right, my friends. If that feels like a good fit for you, my contact information is also in the show notes, so go ahead and schedule time with me using that Let's Connect link, and we'll just go from there. All right, my friends, reach out to Emily, reach out to me. You are not alone. Here for you, and give yourself a hug. That's what I encourage you to do. Fun fact: the body does not know if you are hugging it or if somebody else is hugging you. So give yourself a hug, just like this. Like, you're doing great work. You're doing great work. Breathe. I'll see you at the next one, my friends. Love you. Mwah.